on entrepreneurship ecosystems. I look forward to seeing what you have to say, John.
Thank you very much. What a pleasure it is to be here with Rising Stars to talk about something that comes out of my research, the kind of research that I do. And here in Austin, we have built what we call a great ecosystem that has produced a whole lot of enterprises. So, I travel the globe. I've taught in Japan, taught in China, have projects in Shreveport, Louisiana, Rochester, New York. And when we're talking about innovation and entrepreneurship, people tend to forget the importance of the ecosystem. So it's not just that you have a process of entrepreneurship, you have a whole process of the problem of what is the ecosystem that produces these kinds of firms. So let me start with a general proposition, a shocking proposition that I always start with my students. I say that, look, during the 1970s, when America had a tough time, we got back into entrepreneurship. And since about 40 or maybe 45 years, most of the great companies in America have been founded in three places. Route 128 in Boston, that's Microsoft, dozen more. Silicon Valley, everybody knows that, eBay, Hotmail, Google, Hewlett Packard, you name it. Austin, Texas, Dell Computers, Whole Foods, National Instruments. So what it is about the idea of the ecosystem? What is the relationship between the whole idea that entrepreneurs essentially need help? And so we're going to talk about the importance of this help. And I always give another kind of analogy when I speak to my students. I asked my students, I said, if you want to be a great country and western singer, where do you go? Well, you go to Nashville, they say. If you want to be a movie star, where do you go? Well, you go to LA. Of course you do. If you want to be an opera singer, you go to New York. And that's because if you want to be a movie star, the ecosystem is set up in LA for you to be a movie star. So the producers of movies would say, I need someone to play in this Western. Well, this person is right over here. They're waiting on that. If you want to start a company, where do you go? Well, my research tells me you go to Silicon Valley, Austin, Texas, or 128 in Boston. It doesn't mean that other companies are not started in other places. But there's a relationship between the ecosystem and the help that entrepreneurs get. So just as the guitar player goes to Nashville and she might say, I need a bass player. Oh, the bass player is here because they came here also. I need a piano player. That's why they all came. You come to a region like Austin or the Texas region. I need a good VC who understands. I need an angel network who understands. I need a CEO who understands. I need a great marketing firm that understands. They are all right here. Now, when I say understand, what I mean is that they understand that the entrepreneurs will need help when they first start. So the lawyers understand they'll do it pro bono or they'll take part of the firm. So the ecosystem is a business system that supports entrepreneurs and tends to grow companies. And my research is on high-tech companies. Another thing that a fallacy that people think about is that great enterprises start with business, with management, with accounting, and with finance. Well, I think that Silicon Valley was created by Stanford. I think UT was created by, that Austin was created by the University of Texas. And Boston 128 was created by MIT. That's because we start with science. That is, if we make the university an engineer for wealth creation and understanding, well, we start with science. What I have here on the screen is a science regional model, which takes the university and say, well, what kind of company is Microsoft? It's a computer science company. What kind of company is Southwest Airlines? It's a science of flight. What kind of company is Bell Aspirin? It's science, or pharmacy. So what we have to understand then is that all of these regions and the regional component for great companies in the last 45 or 50 years or so have been science-based. It doesn't mean that you can't take a great company with no science. But even a philosophy major, John Mackey, who created Whole Foods right here in Austin, is based on the science of a certain kind or a certain type of food. So when I travel to regions, I said, look, I'm working in Shreveport, Louisiana. You have to have the science right. Now, if you want to invite companies in, that's one thing, and that's fabulous. But to literally to be an entrepreneur, to scale and to create wealth. Now, in my MBA class, the first thing I tell my students is, I want you to be in the top 1% of the economy in America, not the 1%.
I would love to see examples of these. If you have any slide examples that you'd like to share.
Yes, I do. I do have some. When we get to the end, I have a lot of the companies that we did. Right. So I talked to the students and said, you need to be in the top 1%. Okay. Because we're going to take your idea. And remember, now I have it as a university, but it could be a laboratory. It could be anything. But the idea is to take the science and to create it and to create wealth. And wealth produces jobs. And jobs produces companies and vice versa. Okay. So when you put it all together, and I like to ask in my research, if you have the ecosystem together, as I said, are people coming to Austin to start companies? Because remember, what I like to do is ask, I want to go where the putt is going, not where it is. So I'll say this, myself and Rajiv, who's at Atlanta Emory University, and Brian Stevens, my former PhD student who is now at Duke Fuqua School, we did big data and we asked a question. Where are entrepreneurs going to launch their companies? We've got Austin, Texas, and San Francisco right at the top of the list. So why are they doing this? Well, it's the same reason why, exact same reason why the musician will go to Silicon Valley. So the idea then, as we talk about entrepreneurs, and I work with, I guess, hundreds of entrepreneurs, and during the pandemic, we've had tons and tons of opportunities. As a matter of fact, myself, I'm involved in 2 great companies during this pandemic. So they're coming here because all of the things that they need are here. So what is that process? What is that process? Well, I start with science, but how do we engage in what we call technology transfer? Technology transfer is taking science and technology and turning it into a business. So we might start with a patent. We might start with a laboratory. Sometimes that laboratory is a private kind of laboratory. And then we put together a great, great research plan, not a business plan, a research plan. If I am in software, and if I am the whole idea of customer satisfaction, I want to look at all of the research, all of the companies, and all of the science around customer satisfaction. Remember, Uber replaced taxi cabs almost overnight because of the science. And what science does is to disrupt business models. For example, we have heard of horse and buggy. It was disrupted by the combustion engine. We've heard of trains. Trains was disrupted by flight. We've heard of electricity. Go back and read the science of electricity. It is absolutely fascinating to see how that science is brought into the market. And as Schumpeter would say, the great Austrian sociologist, economist, the only thing I can tell you about a great business today is that it will be disrupted tomorrow. So perhaps the gasoline engine will be disrupted, if you will, by electric cars. So what happens in the gathering of entrepreneurs, whether it's in Silicon Valley and Austin, Texas, is they come to a place where everything is set up, especially great individuals, to do business. So I asked our people in the city, well, why did the electric vehicle company just move here? Why did Tesla? Because of science and the university. The guy who did all of the battery science won the Nobel Prize, John Goodloe, in batteries. So it's very, very important to understand that as an entrepreneur, you also want to do the research. So I would not start a great technology for example, in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Go Tigers, where I'm from, because the economy is not set up. The ecosystem is not set up. So consequently, people move around to literally find and understand the relationships between science and technology. Now, but how do you do this? How do you get people to do this? Because universities have done it well. Remember that Gates was 21 when he founded Microsoft. Dell was 19 when he founded Dell Computers. And the founder of Facebook, what was he, maybe 19? They all came out of the whole idea of understanding the relationship between science and technology. Facebook is just a computer science company. So to do that, before I get to some examples real fast, I'm the faculty director of the John Bromley Texas Venture Labs. And students have to be taught the importance of market economies, the importance of constructive capitalism. I am the faculty. My chair is the J. Marion West Chair in Constructive Capitalism. I'm in director of IC Square Institute. I founded the John Bromley, the lab at the university, and the Herb Kelleher Center. I was founding director. So all of these things become connected. The mission is this. Usually my students come in and say, well, I would like to start an enterprise. What do you want to do? Well, I want to do a restaurant. Well, but what's the science of a restaurant? So you understand that the science of a restaurant is about a lot of stuff. And finally, let's talk about some examples of students from our ecosystem.
Okay, I would love to see examples of those. We do have one question if you
Okay.
get to that. So actually, we have two questions, and we have about 2 minutes left.
Okay, I've got them up on the screen anyway. Okay.
Okay. When looking to be an entrepreneur, does having a master's in some form of engineering or for the science emphasis or receiving an MBA for the business mind help more than the other option?
No, to start an enterprise, you can have either. The problem that we have is that the engineering student is taught not to commercialize what they do, and the business student is not taught about science. So what you have to do is bring them together. They cannot be autonomous. So in all of my courses, in my elective courses, I have MBA students and engineering students together. So you bring the science to the engineering students, because to make the company great, you've got to have management, finance, and accounting. So you're going to start, however, with the science. The science makes it go, and the people in business really, really commercialize the science. So once you put your board together, you got to have a great people who understand finance. You got to understand accounting. They need to understand marketing, and they need to understand management. So you bring them together.
Okay, thank you. We have about 30 seconds left. That was the most important question. We have one more that we can get to. When universities are attractions for the high-tech companies, what are the new centers that are coming up?
Well, if you look, Colorado is doing extremely well. They've done a great job. Of course, Washington, Seattle has done a great job, although it tends to be around a Microsoft. If you look at what's going on, Atlanta with Georgia Tech is doing a pretty good job. And of course, North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and their centers over there, they've done a lot of research, but they haven't produced the same kind of companies that Silicon Valley and Austin, Texas have produced. So those are some of the up and coming centers who understand the relationship between science and business. You start with the science, and then you go to the accounting, the finance, and the management to make the business go. And remember that science always disrupts the business models. So you can have a great business, and all of a sudden, here's a new process, that allows everybody to become a taxi driver, and Uber comes aboard, all of a sudden you can fly from coast to coast to coast, coast to coast, and of course the railroads have a problem.
Well, thank you. Thank you all for tuning in. If you have any more questions, you can attend the mixer. It's in the agenda in the event Mobi, and all of the sources that John brought with him today here are linked below, so you can go check those out if you're interested. But yeah, if you can bring your questions to the mixer, and we'll see you
Okay, thank you. Hook 'em horns.
there.